Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel, thank you. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Battle Through the Heavens based on novel. So let's start. The little fairy doctor slowly lifted her head. The colors within her eyes were so pure that it was terrifying. One was purple while the other was gray. There was no doping of other colors. It gave one a cold and indifferent feeling at a glance. Under this strange pair of eyes, Xiao Yan's heart involuntarily leaped despite his strength. Grey-purple eyes observed Xiao Yan. However, the little fairy doctor did not open her mouth. She gently clenched her delicate hand. 100-foot radius around her began to intensely fluctuate. It immediately twisted and formed an invisible cage. Following the distortion of space, the gaze that the outside world used to look in had also become blurry. Sky poison prison world. As the little fairy doctor twisted space into a cage, one could see a grayish-purple, thick fog suddenly surge from the little fairy doctor's body. It immediately scattered. Within a couple of blinks, it covered this space that was already distorted into a cage. In an instant, the gazes from the outside world were all completely blocked. Xiao Yan's face was gloomy within the space cage, as he looked at the grayish-purple thick fog that spread all around him. He could sense that this kind of fog contained a lethal poison that even he did not dare to absorb into his body. Moreover, this fog also seemed to have the ability to disrupt one's speed and agility. He found that his body had become much heavier following the spread of this poison fog. What a terrifying poison! It is actually able to pollute the natural energy within this sealed space. In this way, one would not dare to randomly absorb the energy in the world when fighting. This means that one could only exhaust one's strength without being able to obtain any replenishment. If this goes on for too long, one's ending will definitely be terrible. What a really vicious tactic. The woeful poison body is indeed troublesome to deal with. Xiao Yan's dark, cold eyes swept over the grayish-purple fog that spread all around him as he spoke within his heart in a deep voice. His heart immediately moved and he sealed off the pores all over his body. A layer of powerful qi completely covered his body to isolate himself from that grey-purple fog. However, each time the woeful poison body completely erupts, it will result in the complete eruption of your poison body coming one step closer. The old me will accompany you if you really want to engage in an all-out fight. Xiao Yan's gaze was slowly withdrawn from the greyish-purple space. Although his expression was still somewhat solemn, he was at least no longer as worried as he was in the past. Looking at the little fairy doctor's earlier action, it seemed that she had also used something that caused her strength to soar. Moreover, she had specially formed a sealed space in the sky and should have some confidence. Given Xiao Yan's understanding of her, the little fairy doctor was not the type who would foolishly go and do something like seeking death in a fight. We can only now wait for the final ending, Xiao Yang sighed once again within his heart. His gaze had also suddenly turned cold as it gradually slid to Sian in front of him. His voice slowly said, "Since Chief Sian is so anxious to fight with me, I should really be blamed if I don't give you the satisfaction today." Xiao Yan's words might be calm, but the killing intent within his voice was extremely obvious. Clearly, this fellow, who had repeatedly blocked him, had successfully received the fury and killing intent within his heart. Sian's face gradually changed when he heard Xiao Yan's words. He immediately laughed. What an arrogant fellow. You should be feeling honored this chief is personally fighting with you. In that case, I will invite Chief Xie to hand your head over. The corner of Xiao Yan's mouth was lifted into a ferocious smile. His feet violently stomped on the empty air. A silver glow flickered and his body suddenly rushed forward. A couple of after-images surfaced in the sky. An instant later, Xiao Yan appeared above Sian's head. His hands tightly gripped the heavy ruler, as he immediately hacked viciously at the latter's head without any fancy moves. The enormous ruler carried an intense pressurizing wind that created a whistle. That wind caused Sian's clothes to be tightly pressed to his body. Sian emitted a cold snort. The blue rod in his hand was violently lifted up. It collided with that heavy ruler without giving in. A clear metallic collision sound appeared. Sparks flew as a powerful force spread out from the point of contact. Two human figures swiftly withdrew. Xiao Yan's body rolled in the air. The fire wings on his back were flapped as he stabilized himself. Instead, Xiaoshan's feet staggered a couple of steps back before stopping. Moreover, the hand that was holding the rod appeared to tremble. Xiao Yan was naturally much stronger than Xiaoshan when it came to physical strength. Adding the heaviness of the heavy Sian ruler and the power of his physical body, that had undergone the refinement of many natural treasures, it was naturally foolish for Xiaoshan to choose a head-on collision. Xiao Yang's body was suspended in the sky. He looked at the fiercer and more ruthless-looking Xiaoshan, who had taken a couple of steps back. A cold glint flashed in his eyes. Hot jade-green Do Qi naturally surged from his body and immediately shot toward the heavy Xian ruler in all directions. In a moment, the dark black heavy ruler transformed into a jade-green color. Threads of jade-green flames quietly shuttled over it. The jade-green color on the ruler became denser. At a certain moment, Xiao Yang's eyes suddenly became sharper. Both his hands tightly grasped the ruler's hilt and the veins on his arms pulsed. He violently hacked at Xiaoshan from a distance while adopting a ferocious expression, flame-splitting tsunami. A jade-green fire glow that was over 100 feet large immediately shot from the ruler's tip as the cry resounded in Xiao Yang's heart. The air fluctuated repeatedly wherever the fire glow passed. The high temperature contained on it caused the surrounding space to appear distorted, heaven-shaking rod. Following the ruler glow that shot over with hot wind and powerful energy, Xiaoshan clenched his teeth and suddenly waved the blue rod in his hand. It made a strange trembling rhythm amid a piercing blue glow as it violently smashed toward the ruler glow. Bang! The ruler glow and the blue glow instantly intertwined in front of a countless number of gazes. A thunder-like explosion immediately resounded over the sky. An intense energy ripple containing a hot fire wave surged out from the point of contact. It struck Xiaoshan until he emitted a muffled groan. The hand that was holding the blue rod emitted white smoke with a kai-kai sound. However, he forcefully grit his teeth and continued to hold onto it. His body moved and he withdrew in a hurried fashion. The strange flame that was contained on the ruler's glow caused him to suffer a great disadvantage in this collision. Xiao Yang let out a cold laugh when he saw Xiaoshan pulling back. His gaze drifted to a certain space as a silver glow flickered under his feet. In a couple of flashes, he appeared in front of Xiaoshan. He raised his heavy ruler and violently swept it over. Xiaoshan's body was hurriedly expelling and refining that irritating hot force. His feet slipped in a strange manner when he sensed the wind, allowing him to narrowly dodge the attack. After having dodging it, his body once again withdrew. His gaze drifted and paused on his original spot when he withdrew, but did not see Xiao Yang giving chase. He immediately emitted a cold laugh. However, a lovely, little figure suddenly flashed and appeared behind him while that cold laugh was still in his throat. A clear voice sounded, "Ha ha, eat my punch." That tender clear voice had just sounded when a pale little fist instantly shot over. A purple glow flickered on the fist. It contained a terrifying strength. Shock surged into Xiaoshan's eyes when he sensed that frightening strength that had suddenly appeared behind him. He forcefully turned around and used the blue rod in his hand to block his chest. Bang! The little fist firmly stuck the blue rod. However, before Xiaoshan could sigh in relief, a cracking sound caused a chill to spread all over his body. One could see that the blue rod, with a hardness that was not weaker than steel, cracked apart at this moment. That little fist passed through it and finally landed on Xiaoshan's chest. "Bastard, bastard, big bastard. You actually dare to launch a sneak attack." Xiaoshan's body hurriedly withdrew, and he immediately roared out in an extremely furious manner. Xiao Yang shook his head in ridicule when he heard this. He did not say any nonsense as a silver glow flickered under his feet. In an instant, he appeared in front of Xiaoshan, and his heavy ruler was lifted into a frightening arc. It immediately carried the terrifying sound of rushing wind as it smashed at the latter's head in a merciless manner. Xiao Yang did not discriminate against something like hitting a man when he was down. Instead, he would be even more vicious in his attacks if he got the chance. The Do Qi within Xiaoshan's body was circulating unusually slowly and appeared somewhat blocked, because of that punch by Yang earlier. His heart clearly understood that this was the sign of being seriously injured. When faced with this ferocious attack by Xiao Yang, he no longer dared to meet it head-on. Hence, he could only hurriedly move his body to miserably dodge the heavy ruler. Xiao Yan let out a cold laugh when the heavy ruler missed. The heavy ruler continued to swing as it left his hand. After which, it violently shot at Sian. Dodging the earlier attack by Xiao Yan had caused the veins in Sian's body to feel a convulsing pain. Now, he naturally did not have any strength, therefore, he could only watch the heavy ruler fly at him with wide eyes before it finally struck his body. A mouthful of fresh blood was once again spat out. Terror finally flashed across Sian's eyes. If this continued, it was likely that he would really die in Xiao Yan's hands, just like Wu Wei did. Sian clenched his teeth firmly, as he forcefully maneuvered the dou qi in his body. He used all his strength to flap the dou qi wings on his back. Borrowing the pushing force of this heavy ruler, he shot in the direction of the 10,000 Scorpion Gate. You wish to escape? Xiao Yan once again coldly laughed upon seeing where Sian was headed. His body flashed forward and his toes pressed on the back of the heavy ruler which he had launched earlier. His body was just like a large bird that charged at Sian. With Xiao Yan's speed, it was naturally not much of a problem for him to catch up to the injured Sian. Hence, his body appeared in front of Sian after a mere couple of blinks. He revealed a savage smile while facing the latter. With a twist of his body, he strangely appeared behind Sian. The expression of Sian suddenly became much paler when Xiao Yan gave chase. In his current condition, it was impossible for him to contend with the latter. Elders in the gate, why aren't you coming to my rescue? Dou qi was circulating very slowly within Sian. In his despair, he could only furiously cry out to the elders of the 10,000 Scorpion Gate, who were still entangled with their opponents. The few elders clenched their teeth upon hearing Sian's furious roar. They did their best to attempt to escape from their opponents. However, only 2 expert Dou Huangs successfully did so. Their bodies suddenly moved before rushing to Sian's side in a lightning-like manner. The 2 expert Dou Huangs furiously cried out, after they were blocked at such a critical moment. They waved their hands and 2 powerful dou qi pillars shot at Xian. Xian merely curled her small lips when she saw these 2 people attack. She once again tightly clenched her small fist before unceremoniously striking on the 2 dou qi pillars with a low snort. A frightening strength shattered the 2 dou qi pillars into nothing in front of the stunned eyes of the 2 expert Dou Huangs. You actually dare to be fierce toward me. You are seeking death, Xian coldly snorted while curling her mouth. Powerful purple light suddenly surged out of Xian's body. Her figure flashed and charged at the chest of an expert Dou Huang. She waved her small fist and wildly swung it at the other party. Numerous scars appeared around her dancing fist. The sharp sound of rushing wind basically shattered the eardrums of the expert Dou Huang. The face of that expert Dou Huang drastically changed in the face of this ferocious attack by Xian. Powerful dou qi formed a thick light curtain on his body. However, this layer of light swiftly began to crumble from Xian's attack. The 2 expert Dou Huangs naturally lost the best opportunity to provide support after being delayed by Xian in this matter. Sian could only ruthlessly clench his teeth upon seeing this scene. He prepared to forcefully circulate his dou qi. However, this thought had just rose in him when a faint laugh suddenly sounded from behind him. Chief Sian, it looks like you will not have the opportunity to see your 10,000 Scorpion Gate victorious today. The faint laughing sound came from behind Sian. That calm voice caused Sian's entire body to become icy cold. He turned his head with great difficulty, and a short distance away, an indifferent, cold face appeared in his eyes. Xiao Yan revealed a cold and indifferent smile to Sian upon seeing the latter looking over. His fist was suddenly tightened as it violently smashed toward the latter's back without any mercy. No. No. Sian was terribly shocked upon seeing this action by Xiao Yan. Even his voice had become unusually sharp in front of the threat of death. The cold laughter in Xiao Yan's eyes grew even denser upon hearing the meaningless cry of the latter. A cold cry was suddenly transmitted from his mouth when his fist reached midway. Octane blast. The wind on the fist immediately soared as his cry sounded. A frightening hidden force swiftly agglomerated within his bones. An instant later, it heavily smashed into the latter's back. A ferocious strength immediately erupted, and an obscure, but shockingly destructive, hidden force followed Xiao Yan's fist as it entered into Sian's body. The eyes of those experts from the 10,000 Scorpion Gate slightly cracked upon seeing Xiao Yan falling from the sky. A chief of a faction had actually been killed in front of so many people in this kind of big battle. The blow to the faction was not just a little. It was still all right for the experts, but the ordinary 10,000 Scorpion Gate's disciples on the ground had completely lost their morale. Their faces were pale white. Bastard. Kill him, take revenge for Chief. Furious eyes instantly gathered on Xiao Yan's body in the sky. Only a couple of hours had passed since the start of the battle, but there were already 3 experts from the 10,000 Scorpion Gate who had been killed in his hands. Moreover, they were all of the Do Huang class. How could this not result in the experts from the 10,000 Scorpion Gate feeling great hatred for Xiao Yan? This was especially the case with Xiao Yan's death. It caused the fury of the experts from the 10,000 Scorpion Gate to reach a peak. Immediately, numerous angry roars resounded over the sky. All of those experts from the 10,000 Scorpion Gate forcefully escaped from their opponents and furiously rushed to Xiao Yan. Even Xiao Yan leaped in shock when he suddenly saw over 10 human figures rushing at him. It seemed that these fellows were provoked until they were about to turn crazy. Mr. Yang, you should rest first. Leave the remaining matter to us. An expert Do Huang from the poison sect turned his head toward Xiao Yan and laughed. His eyes were filled with respect. The performance of Xiao Yan earlier had completely subdued them. Xiao Yan smiled and nodded. It was quite a big burden for him to deal with 3 expert Do Hongs in a row. He immediately ceased putting things off. His body moved and he rushed out of the battleground before finally appearing in an even higher area. He stuffed some medicinal pills into his mouth before swallowing them hungrily into his stomach. Only after a feeling of pure energy appeared in his body did he sigh in relief. He raised his head and observed the battleground between Medusa and Protector Tai from the Hall of Souls with solemn eyes. 2 human figures were flashing around each other in ghost-like manners at that spot. Frightening energy ripples shook the space until it began to distort. Not a single expert from both sides dared to step into that battle. This was because everyone knew that in a battle between elite Do Zongs, even a Do Huang would not have enough strength to intervene. How is Kailin Jia? A lovely little figure flashed over to Xiao Yang's side. Zi Yang's eyes studied the battleground as she sensed the frightening energy ripple that spread out. A solemnness surfaced on her small face when she spoke. Her strength is similar to that of Protector Tai from the Hall of Souls, and their battle is a stalemate. It is likely that the victor will have difficulty being decided within a short period of time. Xiao Yang spoke while deep in thought. If the battle between elite Do Zongs were to enter one involving life and death, it would usually last for a long time. However, given Medusa's and that Protector Tai's characters, they would naturally not allow this battle to last for long. Hence, it was likely that the victor of this battle would be determined within a short period of time. Zi Yang slightly nodded upon hearing this. Her large gem-like eyes were raised once again, as she studied the other battleground. There was a greyish-purple fog that filled the space over there, covering it. Any outsider would not be even the least bit aware of the situation within. Xiao Yang's eyes followed Zi Yang's gaze as he looked over. He immediately knit his brows. Little fairy doctor and Xie Bai Yang had entered that covered space quite some time ago. However, there was still no activity at that place. No one was aware of just who had the upper hand. Xiao Yang and Zi Yang remained suspended in the sky. Their gazes were focused intently on the battle between Protector Tai and Medusa. At this moment, the poison sect had completely taken the upper hand in the battle between their sect and the 10,000 Scorpion Gate after Xiao Yang had finished off 3 heavyweight expert Do Huangs. Obtaining victory was only a matter of time. Of course, the deciding factor was based on the 2 Do Zone battleground in the sky. If Medusa and the little fairy doctor were victorious, it would not be necessary to mention the ending today. The poison sect would successfully swallow the 10,000 Scorpion Gate and become the strongest faction within the Chuyun Empire. Xiao Yang would also gain what he desired, the successful capture of an expert from the Hall of Souls. He would hopefully obtain news regarding the Hall of Souls from the captured expert's mouth. If Protector Tai and Xie Bai Yang were eventually victorious, these victories by the poison sect would completely disappear. Xiao Yang and the others could only lead everyone to quickly flee. After all, even if they were to go all out, it was definitely impossible for them to be a match for two elite dozongs. The last crucial factor of this big battle was in these two battlegrounds involving the dozong class. The longsword pulled back after the attack. Medusa's body flashed, and she escaped from the attacking range of Protector Tai. She lowered her head and glanced at the longsword only to frown. There was no traces of fresh blood on it. Although no fresh blood was seen, one could tell from the intense fluctuation of the black fog around Protector Tai's body that the sword earlier had some effect on him. What tricky swordplay. I really don't know where someone as skillful as you has appeared from. I have not even heard of you in the past. The fluctuation of the black fog slowed. Protector Tai's dark and cold eyes looked at Medusa as he spoke. Medusa completely ignored Protector Tai's words. Her face was ice cold, and her long pretty eyes were filled with a sharp killing intent. Other than when facing a familiar person, this Queen Medusa from the Snake People tribe would not be stingy about her killing intent. Protector Tai was already used to Medusa's ice-cold demeanor after having exchanged so many blows being. Hence, he just coldly laughed while his gaze swept over toward the battleground of Xiao Yan. He said, "The people from the 10,000 Scorpion Gate are indeed all useless. They have been defeated so badly despite having such an advantage." Although Protector Tai scolded in this manner with his mouth, he was also aware that he could not continue delaying the battle with Medusa. Otherwise, should the victor of the battle between the little fairy doctor and Xiao Yan be determined, it was likely that his battleground might undergo great changes. It was still all right if Xiao Yan was the victor, but should the little fairy doctor be victorious, even though Protector Tai had confidence in himself, he had no choice but to admit that his chances of victory were extremely low when faced with the little fairy doctor and Medusa, whose strengths were not weaker than his after all. He was similarly quite aware of the little fairy doctor's so-called woeful poison body. Once it was completely unleashed, its strength would be extremely terrifying. Therefore, he would not think it would be strange if Xiao Yan was really defeated. "I cannot delay any longer." Protector Tai extended his hand and a cluster of black fog suddenly escaped from it. It was immediately suspended in front of him. The black fog was emitting a dense spiritual fluctuation. Protector Tai stared at this cluster of black fog with some heartache. He hesitated for a moment before viciously clenching his teeth. His hand moved and that cluster of black fog suddenly expanded. Finally, it swiftly shrank. An illusionary spiritual body immediately shot out of it. Protector Tai opened his mouth and spat out a black fog. It surrounded the spiritual body after it had appeared. The spiritual body that was wrapped by the black fog appeared to have sensed something, and immediately began an intense struggle. A shocking spiritual ripple spread out. This content of novelfulelbook.com. If you're reading this content, please go to website novelfulelbook.com to continue reading. Fastest update hourly. Protector Tai immediately let out a cold snort the moment he saw the struggling spiritual body. He opened his mouth and a large force surged out, before immediately sucking it into his body. The black fog surrounding Protector Tai immediately became much denser after swallowing this spiritual body. His aura also became a little more powerful. Protector Tai did not immediately stop after having swallowed one spiritual body. Instead, another spiritual body was spat out from that black fog, and he continued the swallowing. Following the increase in the number of spiritual bodies being swallowed, the strange black fog also began to spread out. Protector Tai's aura became increasingly more powerful. Kalen, attack. Stop him from swallowing spirits. Outside the battleground, Xiao Yan was also momentarily absent-minded because of this action of Protector Tai. He abruptly recalled the matter of Protector Wu swallowing Yunshan back then, causing him to hurriedly cry out. Although these spiritual bodies were far inferior to the strength of Yunshan's soul, there was quite a number of them. Should Protector Tai swallow a sufficiently large amount of them, it would definitely allow his strength to increase quite a bit. Medusa instantly rushed forward the moment Xiao Yan's cry sounded. Her hand held a longsword that contained a sharp wind that caused the air to fluctuate. It penetrated through the space like a lighting glow. It violently struck the cluster of black fog in front of Protector Tai with a momentum that was as fast as thunder. The wind struck the black fog, and Protector Tai's expression drastically changed. He was just about to move when the black fog in front of him suddenly burst apart. Numerous illusionary spiritual bodies shot out. Finally, they wildly fled in all directions in front of the stunned gazes of Xiao Yan and the others. these are actually all spiritual bodies. Xiao Yan's eyes were dull as he saw over 100 spiritual bodies. He immediately felt that his throat was somewhat dry. Just what was this fellow from the Hall of Souls attempting to do by obtaining so many spiritual bodies, bastard? You actually dared to destroy my soul bag. Protector Tai's eyes immediately turned blood red as he watched those spiritual bodies flee in all directions. A rich killing intent surged from his body. He had spent a year in order to obtain these spiritual bodies. If he failed to contribute his share that was requested by his superiors when he returned this time around, his fate. The killing intent within Protector Tai's heart was even denser the moment he thought about the punishment should he fail his task. His killing intent immediately soared to the limit. Finally he emitted a wild roar. The dark black metal chain was just like a python as it emitted a clanging noise. It viciously swung toward Medusa. Medusa swiftly withdrew in the face of this furious attack by Protector Tai. 7-colored energy surged out of her body. The long sword in her hand turned into a 7-colored sword glow that violently struck the chain. Bang. 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 A clear sound appeared and a frightening energy ripple surged out from the point where they made contact. The space fluctuated and the long sword in Medusa's hand immediately burst apart. He had also emitted a muffled snort as his body withdrew swiftly. No matter what your origin is, today, this protector will use your soul to make up for the spiritual bodies that have escaped. Protector Tai's furious roar resounded across the sky. 5 dark black chains immediately surged from his body. The strange black fog that was on each chain was at least twice as dense as it was earlier. Those 5 dark black chains suddenly lowered following Protector Tai's roar. After which, they emitted a swishing sound as they chased after Medusa. The killing intent on the chains was extremely dense. Medusa instantly became disadvantaged when faced with Protector Tai's attacks, which had suddenly become much more wild and violent. All she could do was use her high agility to dodge. The faces of Xiao Yan and Zi Yang, who were standing outside of the battleground, changed upon seeing Medusa's situation. I will go and help Cai Lin Jie. Zi Yang's brows were a little anxious. Her body moved. She tried to charge into the battleground. However, she was blocked by Xiao Yang. With your strength, you will only be a burden by going. Xiao Yang shook his head. He immediately spoke in a deep voice, help protect me. Don't allow anyone to disturb me. Xiao Yang inhaled a deep breath of air after his words sounded. He raised his hand slightly and immediately began to form some unique seals. The seal-forming speed grew faster with the flow of time. In the end, numerous after-images appeared. Xiao Yang's forehead was also covered with a cold sweat. The redness on his face was gradually replaced by a paleness. Zi Yang by the side looked at the Xiao Yang's increasingly pale expression and became somewhat anxious. However, she did not say anything to disrupt him. This was because she could sense Xiao Yang preparing a Do skill that possessed extremely frightening strength. Should he succeed, he would definitely be able to give Protector Tai a vicious attack. A 7-colored sword glow and the black python-like metal chains crossed each other in a lightning-like manner in the sky. They erupted into a soul-stirring clear sound as glaring sparks splashed about. Medusa's body withdrew. Her face was also quite solemn. After having swallowed a couple of spiritual bodies, the strength of Protector Tai had clearly increased. These wild and violent attacks had caused Medusa's hands to become slightly numb. Protector Tai's body stood in the empty sky. His gaze was dark and vicious as he looked at Medusa. His mouth emitted a strange laugh that was filled with killing intent. Protector Tai did not give Medusa even a moment to catch her breath. His hand moved and the black-colored enormous python-like chains emitted the whiz of pressurized wind as it swept across the sky. Finally, it swung violently toward Medusa. A cold glint flashed across Medusa's eyes when she was faced with this fast attack by Protector Tai. Powerful Do Chi was circulated in her body to the maximum. A bright 7-colored glow seeped out of her body. She looked like a 7-colored light figure against the sky. An enormous sword glow over 100 feet long swung out each time the longsword in her hand was waved. A soul-stirring energy explosion erupted each time the sword glow and the black python-like chain collided. This momentum was indeed worthy of being a battle between elite Do zones. Xiao Yang's expression, who was outside of the battleground, grew increasingly more pale as the battle between Medusa and Protector Tai truly entered an intense phase. As his expression paled, an intense fluctuation of frightening energy slowly agglomerated. It was formed within the swift-moving hand seal. The heart of Xian by the side was filled with anxiety upon seeing Xiao Yan's face. She clearly knew that if one failed to successfully unleash such powerful Do Qi, there was the chance of a backlash occurring. Should that happen, it was not surprising for one to suffer serious injuries if one was lucky, and might even die should it be more serious. Although she was anxious, she did not dare to open her mouth and interrupt. She could only do her best to help protect him. Should anyone come over and interrupt at this moment, it would be a fatal blow for Xiao Yan. While Xiao Yan was solemnly waiting, the frightening energy that was agglomerating in Xiao Yan's hand seal suddenly became chaotic. A low muffled sound was also emitted from his throat. Xiang's heart immediately became tense upon hearing the muffled sound. She turned her head to take a look only to see Xiao Yan's tight frown. His face was filled with a solemn expression. Clearly, he had felt great difficulty using this Do skill, which possessed frightening power. The minimum requirement to use the sea-flipping seal was that one must possess the strength of a Do Huang. Xiao Yan's strength had only just reached this stage. Normally speaking, if it was not because of him being different from an ordinary expert Do Huang, it was likely that he would not have the qualification to use the sea-flipping seal with his strength. After all, the Do Qi required for a Do technique with such a frightening strength was really too terrifying. Moreover, the degree of precision that one would need to control the Do Qi was also quite harsh. Xiao Yan had indeed met quite some trouble at this moment. Although he had once practiced for a period of time in the small valley, there was still quite some risk when he wanted to use it as he desired in a battle. One example was this time around. Xiao Yan's expression finally changed upon sensing the chaos within his body. If this were to continue, not only would he fail to use the sea-flipping seal, but he would also end up seriously injured due to the backlash. The chaos in Xiao Yan's heart had just flashed and appeared when he suppressed it as quick as possible. As long as there was even a slight mistake at this moment, it was likely that he would completely fail. Currently, he was no longer that ignorant young man from back then. Being unusually rich in combat experience, he clearly understood the importance of remaining calm at such a moment. Xiao Yan inhaled a deep breath of air. He slowly suppressed the anxiety within his heart and gradually withdrew his focused mind. He actually ceased controlling the chaotic Do Qi that was causing a mess in his body. It was as though he was a third party, who was calmly observing the chaotic Do Qi that was spreading in all directions. At the same time, the change of his hand seals quietly slowed. Xiao Yan had completely calmed down following the increased focus of his mind. Under this extreme calm, he appeared to have entered a mysterious condition. His ears had become completely calm, withdraw. A low cry suddenly sounded deep within his heart. Threads of thin, almost hair-like, mental threads flashed out in a lightning-like manner in all directions. Finally, they grabbed the chaotic Do Qi that was seeping out. All of them were like numerous small streams that agglomerated from all directions before finally gathering together. Xiao Yan's mind was distributed in a manner that was not the least bit inefficient. Under this kind of extremely calm condition, almost every thread of his mind had unleashed its maximum effect. In this way, the disorder from the earlier rush of Do Qi immediately disappeared. When the Do Qi within his body was completely controlled, the tight frown on Xiao Yan's brows slowly relaxed. The speed which his hand seals changed suddenly sped up. After images flew. A moment later, the hand seals suddenly stiffened on a strange seal. Xiao Yan's hand seal was one with his thumbs pointing at him. All of his 10 fingers were in a half-wounded condition in a snake-like manner. His index fingers faced each other, giving people a mysterious feeling at a glance. Xiao Yan's hand seal solidified. His tightly shut eyes suddenly opened. A piercing glow shot out in a substance-like manner, causing Zi Yang's heart to beat violently by his side. The space around Xiao Yan suddenly fluctuated the moment the jade crystal hand seal appeared. The powerful force that spread out caused even Zi Yang's heart to feel pressure. The frightening energy that suddenly appeared also aroused the surrounding experts' attention. Immediately, numerous shocked gazes were shot over. His expression gradually became solemn upon sensing the frightening energy that was contained within it. He discovered that he seemed to have underestimated this young man since the very beginning. A dense black fog surged out of Protector Tai's body. The surging energy contained within the black fog caused the air to fluctuate. The jade-green crystal rushed through the sky. In an instant, it appeared in front of the black fog. At this moment, Protector Tai was finally able to clearly see just what this crystal glow was: crystal seal. Protector Tai intently frowned upon seeing this thing. His gaze immediately swept past the shape that was formed by the hand seal and was momentarily startled. Disbelief surfaced within his eyes. He involuntarily and sharply cried out, "It is actually the God Seal skill." A short distance away, Xiao Yan's entire body trembled upon hearing this involuntary cry by Protector Tai. The killing intent in his eyes soared. This fellow was actually able to recognize the sea-flipping skill. According to what Sun Er had said, the God Seal skill was one of the secret skills of her clan. Only those clan members with outstanding talent had the qualification to practice it. From her solemn expression, Xiao Yan could tell that this Do technique could be considered a high-grade Do techniques even within her clan. Hence, she had instructed Xiao Yan not to easily use it unless it was a critical moment. Some trouble would be unavoidable should someone recognize it. The most troublesome thing was if this matter were to spread to the clan. If the members of the clan learned that such a secret skill was being practiced by an outsider, they would definitely dispatch someone to retrieve it. There was only an extremely simple method for the retrieval of a Do technique. That was to kill this person. In that case, the Do technique that existed within his mind would naturally disappear. The killing intent in Xiao Yang's heart soared when that Protector Tai's mouth emitted an involuntary cry. Xiao Yang recalled the solemn expression that Sun Er revealed when she was reminding him. This person must not be allowed to flee. A storm had similarly surged within Protector Tai's heart, while killing intent surged in Xiao Yang's heart. He had never expected the Do technique the Hall of Soul warned him to be careful of would actually appear from the body of an unknown, young man. The shock lasted for an instant before it was forcefully expelled by the frightening energy pressure that had suddenly arrived. Protector Tai's face was solemn. His hands moved. Following their movements, the dense black fog around his body suddenly fluctuated and shrank at a pace visible to the naked eye. Within a short couple of breaths, the black fog that spread over the place completely disappeared. A dark black energy ball the size of a head replaced it, and appeared in front of Protector Tai. The black energy ball was suspended in front of him. The color on its surface was dark and deep. At a glance, one would feel as though one's mind was about to be pulled into it. This caused a person to feel afraid of that strange black ball, while perspiration dripped from all over their bodies. As the black ball appeared, the aura all over Protector Tai's body suddenly became a lot more sluggish. He immediately clenched his teeth and flicked his finger. The black ball suddenly rushed out. An instant later, it violently collided with the jade-green crystal that came rushing over. Two frightening energies, that caused even elite Dozong's faces to change, collided like meteorites with a bang in front of a countless number of gazes. The energy ripple was spread over an extremely wide area. It nearly occupied 1,000 feet in radius. In an instant, wild wind blew in the sky and cloud layers swiftly rolled. That earth-shaking unusual phenomenon caused a countless number of people to become panic-stricken. Their faces were pale as a sheet. This content of novafalelbook.com. If you're reading this content, please go to website novafalelbook.com to continue reading. Fastest update hourly. The corrosion of the two energies continued for a couple of minutes. Finally, an extremely sturdy black-green energy ripple suddenly swept out, with an angry thunder-like roar. The black-green energy ripple swept over the sky. The pressure that was contained in this energy was extremely strong, and it caused the trees in the mountain range below to emit a crackling sound as all of them broke apart, waking a countless number of magical beasts that were hidden. Some parts of the towering mountain range broke apart under this energy ripple. The mountain peak collapsed as it carried a countless number of enormous rocks that rumbled and smashed down from the mountain peak. This Sky Scorpion mountain range descended into the most chaotic state experienced yet. That black-green energy ripple had naturally also enveloped Xiao Yang and Protector Tai. The former was still all right. Medusa, who was observing the area, moved the moment she saw that the situation was bad, and immediately dragged Xiao Yang and Ziyang far away. That Protector Tai, however, was far too close to the point where the intense energies crossed each other. This resulted in him being struck by the remnant waves. A muffled groan was emitted and his body withdrew in a somewhat anxious and staggering manner. Following the most frightening energy ripple spreading over from the sky, the point where the two frightening energies collided with each other gradually calmed down. Finally, they slowly eliminated each other. Everyone present sighed in relief upon seeing the frightening energy finally neutralize each other and scatter. The energy ripple from earlier was really too frightening. If a couple more were to arrive, it was likely that the entire Sky Scorpion mountain range would be completely razed. The whistling wild wind and the surging clouds gradually calmed down following the gradual elimination of the energy. The black figure in the sky flashed, and one could see the somewhat miserable-looking Protector Tai appear. Protector Tai emitted an intense dry cough after revealing himself. The black fog that covered his body immediately became much thinner. Clearly, that energy ripple from earlier had affected him quite greatly. Damn it, how could this fellow practice the God Seal skill? Just what is his background? Don't tell me that this fellow is from that ancient clan. A thought that caused his heart to pound in fear appeared. Protector Tai's face also changed. There were not many fractions on this Do Chi continent that caused the Hall of Souls to feel fear. Other than the Pill Tower, this ancient clan was one of them. No wonder he is able to arrive at such a stage at such an age. Damn it. I'm really unlucky. Why would I meet them here? Forget it. I should leave first for today, and make the decision another day. After this fellow leaves, numerous thoughts flashed through Protector Tai's heart. His eyes once again looked in the distant sky toward the grayish-purple cage that did not have much activity. He clenched his teeth and immediately started to quickly retreat. You wish to leave? Panic surfaced in Protector Tai's heart, as he sensed the weak feeling being transmitted by his body. The strange black ball he had used earlier exhausted a great amount of his energy. At this moment, he had undoubtedly landed into a disadvantageous position when compared with Medusa. Protector Tai's body hurriedly withdrew. His arm trembled and a couple of enormous chains explosively shot out. Finally, they were like large black pythons that violently knocked into that blade aura. Only then did he resolve the remaining energy. This huge python's outer appearance was clearly no different from that of the heaven-swallowing python. The only difference was that its size was larger than the heaven-swallowing python from before. The fierce aura that spread over the place was at least a couple of times denser. The enormous seven-colored python that was gathered from Medusa's energy was just like a living heaven-swallowing python. The dense feeling within those enormous eyes was lifelike, appearing as though it possessed an intelligence. Go. Medusa pointed her delicate finger, and coldly cried, when the enormous seven-colored python was formed. As her voice sounded, the seven-colored heaven-swallowing python, that lingered in the sky, swung its enormous tail. A large body rushed out like lightning in an instant and violently shot toward that Protector Tai. Protector Tai's face became extremely ugly when he saw the seven-colored heaven-swallowing python basically transform into a seven-colored ray of light that shot out. His face had become extremely ugly. With his current condition, how was it possible for him to receive this full-force attack by the unhurt Medusa? However, things had already developed until this point. Any other thoughts were pointless. Since he was unable to receive it, he could only flee. Protector Tai did not hesitate when this thought flashed appeared in his head. He turned around and black fog surged over his body before he suddenly shot to the sky as a black-colored ray of light. Medusa emitted a cold snort when she saw Protector Tai flee. She suddenly clenched her delicate hand. The space not far in front of Protector Tai suddenly became distorted. His fleeing figure had become much slowly because of it. Xiao Yan paused in the sky while being supported by Yang. The sea-flipping seal, from earlier, had nearly exhausted all the Do Chi within his body. Fortunately, the usage of the God Seal skill did not pose much requirements on his spiritual strength. Hence, the kind of dizzy condition after using the angry Buddha lotus flame did not appear. Despite this, Xiao Yang's current condition was not good. His face was pale and his aura was weary. It was still somewhat hard for him to use the sea-flipping skill with his current strength. At this moment, Xiao Yang's and Yang's eyes were focused on the seven-colored energy in the sky that had scattered. Protector Tai had firmly received such a fierce strike from Medusa, and it was likely that his situation would not be good. Regardless of what happened, Xiao Yan possessed the thought that this fellow must die. Moreover, he had even recognized the God Seal skill that he had used. In order to avoid some trouble in the future, this fellow must not be allowed to leave. A dense killing intent flashed across Xiao Yang's eyes as this thought appeared across his heart. He must not allow this person to remain. The seven-colored energy gradually spread under a countless number of gazes. At a certain moment, the rainbow-like seven-colored energy suddenly fluctuated. A miserable black figure immediately rushed out. The black figure fled toward the northern sky with all his might the moment he appeared. Taking in his miserable appearance, he no longer possessed even a little of the prestige from earlier. Clearly, this protector of the Hall of Souls had already lost the right to be arrogant after suffering repeated setbacks. Medusa, who had been observing the vicinity, sensed Protector Tai the moment the latter appeared. She merely laughed when she saw Protector Tai's fleeing manner. Her body moved and she transformed into a seven-colored glow that shot forth before appearing in front of Protector Tai within a couple of flashes. I am someone from the Hall of Souls. The Hall of Souls will not let you off if you kill me. Protector Tai hurriedly reduced his speed. He put up a bold front as he cried out sternly the moment he saw Medusa. At this moment, the black fog surrounding Protector Tai was extremely thin. His aura was similar to Xiao Yang's aura, where it was weary until an extremely weak degree. Clearly, the powerful strike by Medusa earlier had given this expert from the Hall of Souls a heavy blow. Medusa's eyes were ice-cold as they swept over Protector Tai. A faint ridicule surfaced in her eyes as she coldly laughed, a dog that has lost its home. This video will end here. Thank you for watching.